Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Metal Workshop. My good friends at ANDELI sent me another toy to play with, and this one looks like it's going to be very useful. What is it? Well, it's a MIG 135 welder. I have not opened it yet. I only opened the outer box. The inner box is still intact. Let's see how hard it is. I may just turn it upside down to get it out because it's packed very well. Let me turn that back over and let's get out my trusty pocket knife and we'll cut the tape and see what they sent me. I'll unbox it right after this. Okay, well, first thing right on top, we got a MIG 135 plus, it says gasless flux core welder, and that's my preference. I know most guys that MIG weld, they just don't think you can MIG weld unless you use gas. But I've had very good luck with the flux core welding wire. In fact, it's my go-to. I love it. Let me see if I can get the rest of this stuff out of here. We got a big package here. My guess is this is going to be welding leads and accessories. Let me just see here. I don't know. Yeah, this looks like it's going to have all the goodies in here. We've got looks like the flux core wire, nozzles, MIG torch, MMA holder, and ground clamp. So this does regular stick welding as well, which is awesome. Right away, I just love this. This gives you the opportunity to plug it into a regular 220 outlet or a standard outlet. The ground clamp is your typical standard ground clamp that comes with all these things. Now, I'll just be honest with you. I typically upgrade this to a heavy-duty ground clamp. That's just me. You don't have to do that. It'll certainly work with this one, and today we're going to use it with this one to prove that. And here is the stick welding. We're going to test both of these. I've got two little things to weld up, and we're going to use the stick welder and the MIG welder. And we'll do that in just a moment. Here is the MIG wire that came with it, it looks like. Looks like, I don't know, did they send a particular length? I can't tell how much we got here. It's a 1.1 pound, so there's a good amount of wire here that came with it, which is nice. And then here is your MIG torch. Yeah, looks nice, and gives you probably about an 8-foot of lead, which is real nice. That's plenty because the machine's so light you can carry it around, plug it in just about anywhere, if you're using it on 110, of course. Well, let's unbox the meat of the project here. Wow, I like the look of it already. Now, it was rainy and cloudy out all morning until I started filming, and then the sun started coming through this window to wash me out, so I apologize for that, but that's just Mother Nature. Yeah, there you go. It's an inverter welder, which is really good technology. This is about my fourth one of these that I've received, inverter style welders, and they work really, really well. Here's a couple extra little tips that came with also. I'll put those in the box. Okay. On my project that we're going to weld, it's a two-part project. In fact, it's two identical parts. And I'll weld one of them with the stick welder, and we're going to do that first, and then we'll set it up for MIG welding and weld with the MIG welder as well. I thought it was nice they included this card, and on the back it says, "And if there is any problem in our items, please feel free to contact with me. Any problems will be handled immediately." So I think that's pretty nice. Sounds really good. It sounds like they have good customer support. Let's see, to set it up for stick welding, Looking in the manual, it says you can set it up for electrode positive or electrode negative welding. They recommend the positive as that will weld deeper. So we're going to do that. We're going to set it up as electrode positive. We'll slide it in there and spin it tight. And then we'll take the ground clamp and we'll put it in the negative. Very easy to do all this. There's nothing to this. And we're ready to go. So as far as I can tell, we're ready to weld right now. Let's go over to the project and I'll show you what we have to do. Okay, let's show you the project. This is the bucket that goes on this mini skid steer. This is the actual material bucket. It's a much bigger bucket. It carries a lot of material. But it was made, in my opinion, with too much distance between here and here. In other words, you know, it's a quick attach. It slides up in here and then there's pins that go through these holes. Well, the pins on this are barely long enough to go through this. And in fact, when you tip it in certain ways, they try to pull out. So what I'm doing is I cut out these extra spacers here and milled holes in them. And you can probably see here, I got one on each side. So what we're going to do is we're going to weld one of these with a stick welder, and then we're going to weld one of these with the MIG welder. And I'm just hoping that this is going to solve my problem with this and, you know, take up the space. Putting a 1/4 inch in here will close that gap up quite a bit. And now let's get started with the welder. I have not ever turned it on, so let's see here what it looks like when we turn it on. I'm assuming the switch is back there. It is. There you go. And for the record, I'm using my ANDELI welding helmet. They sent this to me to review, and I really like this helmet. It's very nice. In terms of welding helmets, this is about as good as it gets. This is a little bit heavier than your standard average welding helmet, but it has a lot of features too. It has a light built in, which is kind of handy sometimes. It's all adjustable, it's automatic. Basically, you just use it. It's really easy to use. Well, as I always do in product reviews, I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I didn't go back to the book or anything. I just noticed that when you press this multiple times, it changes the mode. It has a lift, start, TIG mode also. But anyway, I've got it on MMA now by pushing this button here. It just rotates through. And so now we should be ready to give it a try with the stick welder. Here we go. Welded like a dream. Just did a great job. I'll weld this other side. Well, it did a nice job. I was using the little rod. I'm going to put a heavier rod in and see how that's working. Yeah, that worked really well. You know, I'm just throwing it at the wall and see what sticks, and it's working great. You can't hardly foul it up. And I'm running it pretty hot. I'm running it at 120, and it's penetrating really well, doing a really good job. I'll give you a close-up of it. You can see it did a really nice job. It welded very well. Let's see if we have any slag on there. I don't think we do. We don't really have any slag on there, but I will get a wire brush and clean that up. So let's wire brush it and see what it looks like. No, it did a beautiful job, you can see. And this edge here, I didn't do a very good job. I couldn't hold steady on that edge. But over here I did okay. And then back here, I used the heavy rod back here. And it did a real nice job back there. Burned it down in really well. Okay, we've got the other side to do. We're going to do that with the MIG welder. Okay, my friends, we're over here at the workbench. I switched the ground clamp to positive. I have plugged in the MIG electrode. It's right here. And then the only other thing you got to do is you got to screw in this little extra wire right here. These control wires, I guess is what I would call them. Incidentally, I just want to tell you that that welding that you just saw, by the way, with the stick welder, that was all done on 110 voltage. I didn't even bother plugging it in to the 220. I think that's what's really impressive about these little inverter welders. You can just plug it in anywhere and weld. I love that fact. We're going to have to put the welding wire on. This can always be fun if you've never done it. And if you've never done it, the thing you want to really be careful about is to not lose the end of this wire. If you turn it loose, it'll unspool itself in a heartbeat, and it's a mess. It's a nightmare if that happens. So don't let that happen. Okay, it comes taped up, and we're going to leave it taped up for the moment. We're going to open this up, and I think this is a cool feature here. You just lift up, and it opens, just like it ought to work. Okay, so you can see this is the wire feed apparatus here. Generally, you unscrew those a little bit and lay them down. I didn't know where the roller was, but I see it now, and I guess this might be an adjustment on that. I'm not really sure. Again, I'm not looking at the directions. I'm just trying to figure it out on my own. That's the way I like to try to do a review. I like them when they make sense, and this seems to make sense so far, so we're going to just keep going. Now, if I have to go to the manual, I will, but right now, I'm just going to try to do it blind. Because to me, I think doing it blind like this shows how nice the product is. If I can figure it out on the fly and do it blind, then anybody reading the directions ought to be able to get through it. I'm going to feed this off the bottom here, I'm sure. But what's weird about that is that turns the decal on the inside, which I think seems a little strange, but on the other hand, that's the way I'm sure it needs to feed. I hate to take these tapes off, because when you do that, you could be opening up a can of worms. I'm going to slide this in the end here and get it all the way up to, whoops, and then the wire's trying to unroll itself here. I have to be very careful. All right, so now I'll put this on and line up the little notches and twist it. And that seems to help control it. Okay, here we go. I see we lift that up, and then we can feed the wire right into the tube there. There we go. It's going inside the tube. And then we can close this down, lock her down, and tighten her up. Yeah, it looks like it tightens up there. Okay, so then if we plug her in and I pull the trigger, we should be feeding wire, is what I would think. Now, again, guys, I'm doing this blind. Didn't read the directions. Just doing it blind. Andeli's probably having a heart attack because I'm not reading the directions. But hopefully it'll work okay. We'll see. Okay, I've got her turned on. I've got the lid up so you can see if when I pull this trigger, it should start spooling. Nope, I didn't turn. I've got to remember to put it on the wire feed. I didn't do that yet. I've got it on the first one. I think that's the one we want, but I'm not positive yet. All right, so it is feeding through once I start pressing this button. So generally you want to try to keep this straight. So I'm going to straighten it out here. You can probably tell that the spool is turning. I'm going to take the tip out because that's typically the way you would do this. There it is. I just wanted to make sure I didn't cause a bird nest, and it didn't. It's fine. I just wanted to make sure. So I took the tip off. That's always a good practice when you're doing this, is to take the tip off. I should have done that right away. I'm going to tighten that back down. I'll just turn it with a little pliers here. Just snug it up. Then I'll put the cover back over it, and this cover screws on, which I like because a lot of them just slide on. I like the screw on better. It looks like we're set up ready to MIG weld, so let's go over there to the project and see how this works. Okay, my friends, I think we've got it all set up ready to go, and I think it's going to work. So I'm going to turn it on. Okay, I think it needs to be fed a little faster. Let's see how this works. A little bit more. Well, quite honestly, it was pulsing a little bit there, but it smoothed out and did a perfect weld at the end there. So, I don't know, we'll try the other side. Be hard to beat. Works great. Just works great. You know, when I have more time, I'll sit down and go through those directions and learn the finer points, finer details. But right now, this is doing the job. It's working great. Well, that's hard to beat. Works great. Just works great. As I said, it was pulsing a little bit at the beginning, but it welded great. Welding back behind there is kind of hard, but you can see it penetrated and did a really good job. These edges, to be honest, that was me. I'm just having trouble being steady on these edges, but they did fine. They did fine. It's a really good welder. Does a great job. I just don't see how you could beat it. It just does a really fine job. So my project is now complete, thanks to ANDELI, and thank you so much for sending me that welder to review. It is a fine welder. It also has lift start TIG capability. It did not come with the TIG torch, but you could add that on if you really wanted to, and you'd go to town with the TIG as well. Now, I'm not much of a TIG welder, I'll be honest. I'm pretty good with both stick and MIG, or I should just say wire feed, because it's technically not MIG if you're not using gas, but it's a wire feed welder and it works great. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't weld with just wire feed like that. Sure, you'll get a little more splatter and little pellets and things, but that's okay. Who cares about that? I could give a rip about that. All I want is the project to weld and weld well, and it does that. So thank you, ANDELI, for sending that to me. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I'll put this on the products I use page of my website because it does have my endorsement. And there will be a link in the description, so please check it out. If you're looking to get into welding for the first time, I don't see how you could go wrong with this. Thank you so much.